Good job, Brian.
Well done.
Woo!
Well done. Give it up for Brian.
Woo!
Oh, come on, wake up. We're all up here.
Okay. This panel is feisty. I hope you guys are too. Good morning. Everybody, come on. Good morning.
Good morning, Gina.
It's 11 o'clock. You should be awake by now.
Let's try it again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. Some incentive to sit down and sit up close. There's actually power outlets on these two columns if you need to charge up. That's really great. We're going to get started right away. This is a careers panel. So interestingly enough, these are the folks that are on the careers. My name is Gina Rosenthal. I work for Spanning at EMC. I do SaaS backups of Office 365. It's exciting. I like it. I'm a product marketing manager. I was a sysadmin. That's all you need to know about me. Really, I'm just a wrangler this morning of these very energetic, interesting people that have some good career advice for all of y'all. So what I'm going to do, I want to go down the line, and we'll make this the quickest question of the day. Tell us what your first job was, and if you want to do your first job and your first tech job, and then tell us what your job title is right now. Go first. And your name. Tell us your name, too.
My name's Sean Massey. My first job was working as a stockhand type position at a plant nursery. So basically I was loading shit into people's car. And it was literal shit, not just... My first technical job was as a network administrator for a cookie factory.
Nice.
And my current title, I'm a technical architect for Arrasjid. So that's kind of a catch-all.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. Keep going. Tom, introduce yourself.
I'm Tom Hollingsworth. My first ever paying job was as a frontline cashier at Walmart. My first technical job, hi, my name is Tom. Welcome to Gateway Computers. My badge number is 1088. How can I help you today? Thankfully, I've gotten past that. I am currently an organizer on the Tech Field Day event series.
Cool. All right, let's keep going.
My name is Jeramiah Dooley. Let's see, my first actual paying job was making pizzas at Pizza Hut, which explains a lot. My first tech job was actually a consulting group where we put network cards in PCs at the college that I went to because nobody actually knew how to connect to the internet. Made no money, got lots of phone numbers. It was fun. My current job, I am a principal architect in the office of the CTO for SolidFire, now part of NetApp.
Awesome.
My name's John Arrasjid. First job was probably delivering newspapers and shoveling driveways way back when. But the first tech job was working at a university, working on Unix systems, and also at a computer store selling Atari computers, one of the best early versions. And what I do today, I'm in the office of CTO at VMware, and I do two things. One is working on some IP that I can't talk about, and also supporting infrastructure architects and administrators in what I do with some of my publications.
Cool. Next.
I am Mike Letschin. My first job was I sold memberships at the National Aquarium in Baltimore.
Oh, cool.
So it was my first sales job. Didn't know I was going to do sales at the time. My first tech job, I was a web guy. I wrote the website for University of Maryland's financial aid site. And now I am the field CTO for Nexenta.
Awesome. So interesting, right? We've got people that are very well known in the community, some people that have moved from their job title to CTO. So how many of you guys are wanting to have a career path like that? To go from Pizza Hut to CTO? No, this is an encouraging panel.
That's a great answer that none of you said yes.
Encouraging panel. Stop.
So true.
Okay, sarcasm everywhere. I don't know what to make of this. This is supposed to be encouraging people, guys. Come on.
It's a great thing.
Okay, here we go. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of some of that, because those are interesting career paths. You told us what your literal job title is. That's great. Well, we've all seen, you guys have seen that meme where it says, here's what my job title is, what my mom thinks I do, what my boss thinks I do, what my coworkers think I do. Yeah. Okay, so what do you guys actually do with your job title?
So I think in my case, it's other duties as assigned. Basically wraps up my entire job title. It's pre-sales, post-sales, consulting, whatever they tell me to do.
And you work for, what kind of company?
So I work for a consulting firm. So Arrasjid is a consulting firm. They're based out of Chicago. We are an EMC partner, a VMware partner. We do a lot of Cisco, basically across the board. You'll hear Tim later down here in the front row talking about the future of IT and containerization, so we're in that space as well.
Which is why you do it all.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm primarily focused on end user computing, but it crosses the gamut. I'm not dedicated just to pre-sales or to post-sales. It's kind of wherever they can.
It is the year of VDI.
So Tom, I know your job title doesn't really exist anywhere else in the world outside of us. So what do you actually do besides everything that Stephen Foskett tells you to do?
Hi, boss. I'm a wedding planner. No, really. I find 12 of my closest friends. I put them all on airplanes. I fly them somewhere that they don't live. I put them in a limo. I feed them full of alcohol, and then I make them go sit in uncomfortable chairs for 2 hours and listen to somebody preach at them.
Okay. Is this what you thought you'd be doing
No.
with technology?
I now when people ask me what I do, because I spent 10 years as a networking engineer working with that guy in the back corner. I tell them that I got this crazy startup offer from this dude who called me, and my literal job interview was, do you want to become the Dread Pirate Roberts? I think you'd make an excellent Dread Pirate Roberts. I went to work for him.
So I'm going to come back to you with another round of questions, so keep this all in mind. Jeremiah, what do you really do?
I transfer enthusiasm.
Okay, this is not a technical job then.
But you'd be surprised. So my job is a little bit R&D and a little bit pre-sales and a little bit evangelism and a little bit AR, PR. It's kind of all over the place. But my job is to walk into a room full of people and get them as excited about whatever it is that I'm getting paid to be excited about as I am.
Coming back to you two.
That's a totally legit answer. 'Cause
So we have
it is.
three CTOs on the
I actually
end.
could just take the same answer and not speak now.
3 CTOs on the end. You would
my
agree with
job.
that? Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. It's kind of funny because I think we've all gone through similar types of things through life, both good and bad, that have led us to where we're at right now. For me, I'm working in the office of the CTO. I still do some of the stuff tied to like the VCX program and stuff like that as well. But I do one thing that's R&D, which is tied to machine learning and workload analytics and stuff like that, which is kind of, it seemed like a jump from where I used to be. But I also have full sponsorship to help with evangelism, not necessarily on product sales, but evangelizing the need for people to grow with changes in technology, and not just the technology itself, but the operational aspects tied to that.
Do you want to elaborate?
I mean, I normally say I do 50% product, 50% sales, 50% marketing, and 50% whatever my CEO tells me to do.
That's a lot of time spent at work.
Which basically means I spend my life on a plane.
Okay. We're going to get back to that question too. So your answer, I want to know how y'all got from your entry-level jobs to where you are now. Yours is
Yeah, so do I.
interesting. Well, so you don't know what happened?
No, not
you have
really.
no advice for the people, like what to do? There has to be something. You getting called up and saying, you want to be the Dread Pirate Roberts. I know there's more than that to it, right?
Yeah, there a little bit.
So what kind of things qualify you to do what you do? Because you do more than make people happy and do sunshiny kisses to people. I know that because I see the frustration in other conversations about having to deal with it. So
Well, it's hard for that because, quick show of hands, how many people in the room would consider themselves an introvert? Kind of hard to go talk to people and put yourself out there. Honestly, the best job interview I ever walked into was for the FBI. Fun fact, I almost was an FBI special agent before I became a technical guy.
Glad that didn't
I walked
happen.
into a room with 3 people who were armed and did not look happy, and sat down and started going over some questions that they asked me. And I was trying to be my usual humble, have a little bit of humility. And the lady who was doing the interviewing slapped the table after 5 minutes and said, "Son, I don't know anything about you other than your name. And if you don't start telling me about yourself, you are not going to make it through this interview." And that was a moment where I said, damn it, I need to start telling people what I do for real. And so thankfully that kind of opened me up to be able to approach people and feel more comfortable talking about my skills as opposed to just trying to play the introverted geek of going, I work on computers.
So do any of you guys how many are introverts on the panel? I didn't see who raised their hand. Yeah, that's what I thought.
No.
Interesting the CTOs are not introverts. I'm just going to point that out.
You can do that as a CTO, but it's not as easy.
So you can. I think it's how you consider an introvert.
Exactly,
So I've had
yeah.
this conversation before. An introvert, you get your energy from time alone. An extrovert, you get your energy from other people. I can still be out presenting and doing this as long as I get alone time. As an introvert, you can still recharge. Okay. So you could still be a CTO and do it. It's just a lot easier if you get your energy from a lot of people.
It's challenging on the timing to figure out, make sure that you get that time away from,
For sure.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and this will lead into more questions, I think. Because especially like from here over, sounds like y'all have really fluffy jobs. But I know that's not the case, right? Thank you. It sounds like I know that's not the case, but I want to kind of know more about what you're doing, right? What you're doing from a technical standpoint right now. I think the soft skills are really important, but the technical stuff, how many of y'all are more interested in the technical, how you get from one place to another in a career? A few. How many of y'all are more interested in the soft, fluffy stuff? Two?
A few more.
Okay, we'll
How
keep
many
going
of you
with
know where you are right now?
We need a pulse.
But what I want to know is, how do you keep your skills up to date? We're going to have another panel right after this that talks about where IT is going. I work for EMC, but I have a pure SaaS product that works on Office 365. It's crazy. So everything around us is changing from a technical perspective. How do y'all, and you can all have to go in order, so whoever wants to go first can say, tell us what your technical skills are that you're using right now and how you're using them and what you're doing to stay up to date as everything changes so quickly.
I can go on that one, I guess. I think I'm lucky because with having part of the role being a product manager, I have to know our product. So like all of our SEs, all of their lab stuff, all rolls up to me. So they look at me as I've got to kind of be that super SE, so I better know it. So I have to spend the time on the product and actually hands-on with it. So when we have demos, even if the guys need to run it, normally I have to do the back end to get everything going. So you still have some of that sysadmin kind of side, even though I had a friend look at me the other day and told me I'd be a horrible sysadmin. I thought that was the worst install I've gotten in a long time. I was like, I was a pretty good sysadmin.
You could probably do it.
There's another thing, too, that I think people need to think about. Don't just sit idle in what you're doing. Think about pushing yourself every single week on learning new things that may not be directly related to what you're doing, but that can give you an opportunity to take different branches in your career as you go forward.
So that's great advice. How do you do that? Do you follow that advice?
So I started out doing programming, so I have a computer science background, and I worked at a university for the computer science department, and I started supporting Unix systems and all that. And I started finding out about all these different conferences, started participating in them. This is both vendor and non-vendor conferences. But what really, I think, came down to it was to do some of the newest bleeding edge stuff. It's all brand new, but it's all based on stuff that has been done before, even the stuff that's evolutionary. And you need to not only understand the past, but also the future. Take DevOps, for example. So this is a great concept, but it may not work for everything, including some of the legacy apps. And I think anytime there's new technology, CI, converged infrastructure, what was old is new again. So we can take skills, whether we're new or senior, in our time frame working in the tech industry, and by staying current, networking with other people, looking at competitors. They could be people in your own department, for example, that are doing things. Learn from other people and what they're doing and see what you're interested in. As an example, like I do books as one of my side things. People are like, well, how do you get started on this? I go, well, you know what? I do speaking sessions. I do blogs. I do tweets. And eventually I have enough material. It's like, you know what? I'm like 40% of the way there or whatever. So let me just go finish it. I'm not saying it's easy, but these are the things that you build on.
It's a good way to teach yourself, too, because I know all of you speak as well, and pretty voracious. And I think speaking is a great way to teach yourself because you never know what people are going to say during your presentation.
Learn a
You
lot.
fools ask ridiculous questions when we're speaking, and we need to actually be able to answer them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to go back to the product management for a minute, because I'm a product marketer. I know you do more than just support sales. You actually have to work with development as well, right?
Yeah, I have 2 full product teams that report up to me that the engineering directors and I work hand in hand together all the time. So a lot of it is I will jokingly say I spend the last 9 months probably of my life going, yes, no, yes, no. No, it's really, you just have to make a decision. To me, that's really what a lot of what product management is just being the one that's willing to make the decision.
And move forward.
Yeah. And if it's not the right call, oh well.
You learn from it.
Hopefully you've got enough background to be able to do it. So and sometimes the engineering teams, all they really want is that direction. If you give them the direction, most of the people you work with are probably smarter than you realize. So they'll be able to do it. You just need to kind of guide them the right way.
You talk to lots of customers too, right? Normally product marketers to do
a
that.
ton. I mean, part of that on that side is getting that customer feedback back and then going back to the engineering team. And as soon as they say, well, I want to do this, looking at them and going, yeah, no one cares.
I say that a lot.
You might want to do that, no one cares.
Right.
So you're going to go do this because I can make money if you go do this.
So would you say, for a technical person, would you recommend going into product management as a career path?
Oh, no, it's horrible. It really depends. If you do lose a little bit of the hands-on, I think if you're used to being the one that is hands-on keyboard all the time, then you have to be ready to make that move where you're stepping away from that a little bit if you're going to go into product management. You need to be able to tell people realize what the things are and be able to tell them how to do it and do that translation. So especially guys who are like resellers and consultants often can be great product managers because they're used to knowing how to talk the English and the tech to people. If you can get there, you have to be a bit of a people person. Even the introverts have to be a little bit of a people person. But I mean, I think it's definitely fun because you get to see something come out of it. And if you want to have that end result, it's not just you have a client that you go in and you install their messaging infrastructure and you walk away. Great. But you actually have something coming out of it. And I think that's part of the enjoyable part of it is I have a result. So when we do a release and I know it's a product that I've actually had to say yay or nay, whether we do different pieces of it,
Kind of cool.
it's kind of cool to see it. At the same time, you also have to have thick skin because somebody's going to hate it.
Yep, it's true.
Probably Jeremiah.
So yeah. So we've talked about, we were originally talking about how you keep your skills up to date. So we heard, both of y'all talking about just being out there and talking to people. You guys, how are you keeping your technical skills up to date as things change?
So it really comes down to investing in yourself. All right, so keeping your skills up to date with the pace that technology is changing, it requires a huge time investment. It may require a huge dollar investment. And you have to be willing to make that investment in yourself, otherwise you're going to fall behind. So like how I do it, and my wife is sitting in the back there shaking her head.
Agreeing with the investment of time and money?
No, disagreeing with it because I have a rack in my basement that's full of servers to do different virtualization things. I have, it's like a $200 a month power bill.
Ooh.
That's the cheap months. So, there's a huge investment there in time and dollars just to keep that running and then to take that time and learn and then turn around. The best way I find to actually learn the stuff and commit it is I take what I do in my lab and I put it down on paper in a blog. Because that act of teaching others, you actually retain, 90% of what you learn, you retain by teaching others.
Yep. Anybody? Jeremiah?
By the way, there's one thing I'll add. So all of you are here at a conference. You may go to other conferences. You may take lessons. And one of the things that I've learned is when you do things like this, there's a plus side of doing something called a trip report. And the idea is, what did you get out of this? Make some notes of who you talked to and share it with your team. And I'll tell you, that was what finally helped work for me to get support for doing more speaking and all of that stuff. Because if you go and you do it and you say, yeah, this was great, but you don't have anything talking about exactly what happened, the history's lost. And then you lose that opportunity to say, next year, I want to go to VMworld again, and here's what I did last year. You've got this info. It's much easier to get that support then.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
You've got to show the tie-in back to what you're currently doing.
And I agree with both of these statements about writing and teaching others and blogging. I actually write a blog post every day and add that to my trip report because it'll have pictures and information that I forgot to put in. And the information I don't want to share with the world is in my trip report. So expect that when I get home. So any more about, so we learn about the home labs and the ups and downs of that. Would you say you get a good return on your investment for that?
I do, but that's because I invest a lot of time to go with it too.
Okay.
But so other people, if they don't have the time to invest in it and maintain it and keep it up to date, it may not be a good investment, but there's other options out there like hands-on labs and online learning, taking classes. I mean, you have to find, what it comes down to is you have to find something that fits your learning style. Not everybody learns hands-on. Not everybody learns well in a classroom. Find what works well for you and take that and use that when you invest in yourself.
I think that's a really good advice. vBrownbag.
vBrownbag.
Really great for that. Opening acts are really great for that. All right. Anybody else want to add to how I guess you guys don't have any technical skills, is what you're saying. You're not up to date.
I think what's interesting is everybody claims everybody claims a focus, right? Maybe you're the storage person or the VMware person or the EUC person or whatever it is. And we do that because we have to interview for jobs, and we do that because you've got micro communities even within your company that you belong to that you've got responsibilities in. When you're looking at the where do I want to invest and how do I want to invest in that, just make sure that those things aren't blocking you from all of the rest of the stuff that's out there. And one of the things that we try a lot, even within groups that I've worked on before, is to just make sure that everybody understands your job is not to be the VMware person. Your job is to be the person in charge of your career and where you are right now and what you're doing and how happy you are with that. And one of the things that when we've done VMUG events where we do one-on-one career counseling, right, where people will come in and sit down and just, it almost every time they vastly underestimate not just themselves, but the value of what they've been doing and where they've been doing it. So the investing in yourself is not just the technical skills and where am I going to go and what am I going to learn, but it's also that frame of mind that says everything that you know, regardless of what silo it is you find yourself in now, has value, and being able to leverage that and knowing when to leverage it and having the tie into the community or into the industry to be able to leverage that is just as important as when's the last time you installed vCenter?
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. It ties back to what you were saying about how everything circles around, and especially as sysadmins, I think, former sysadmin, so I think as sysadmins, we see that. If you've been in the industry for a while, you see things going in circles and in cycles. And so Jeremiah's advice about don't just focus in on the next job and all the points that they're going to ask you about in the interview. Be able to be a well-rounded IT professional, to be able to talk about where the industry is, where we're going, and to be able to start noticing those different cycles.
There's one thing I wanted to add that's complementary to everything else that's been said. How many people here feel that they're truly taking control of their career or are expecting somebody else to help on their career advancement, promotions and things like that?
Ask a question. You have to ask one question.
So the one question is, do you have control of your destiny? And is it, so basically, you say, you're raising your hand, I'm seeing people who have, and so, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, you are taking control yourself because you can't rely on other people to help you advance in the same way that you can yourself. If you don't have the interest and you're not pushing, you're not going to be able to make that next step.
So let's go out this. Let's ask the other part of that question, and everybody on the panel also raise your hands. Have you ever felt in your career that you weren't in charge of what you did next or what you could go and do? Okay, how many of you are still there at that point? We got a bunch of talented people in the room.
Oh, that's good.
There we go. So hopefully this is really good for you. I might come in the audience in a minute and with a microphone so you can ask some questions, but we're going to keep going.
I think it's interesting because you asked that question. Think about how much that's changed in the last 5 years, right? I mean, if I look back early on in my IT career, my field of focus or the resources that I had were pretty constrained to my company, right? And we talked to lots of people who look at their employers, and their employers are the gateway to their next promotion or to their next job or to their next skill set. And there's a real disconnect between what is good for your employer and what is good for your career at times. So the community, the stuff like this, the vBrownbags, the vMugs, that all of the different things that allow you to attach yourself to a community and support that community and get support from that community outside of the internal structure to your company. I think that, at least in my experience, it's a lot easier to feel like you're in control of that because you're sitting in a room with 200 other people. Probably half of them in here have an open position at the company that they work for. Yep. And all you have to do is make a friend, right? All you have to do is have that conversation. That's this is special. This is new. This isn't something that I think, especially in our industry, has been around forever, which makes that process a lot easier.
We're a guild, y'all. That's basically what it is. We really are, and we're able to tie to each other because of technology. So we have to take advantage of it. You want to say something?
Yeah, and the other thing you have to consider too is there's still a lot of the old school mentality out there where you got a job at a company, you worked there until you were 55 or 60, and they gave you a gold watch. All right, there's a number of companies that I've gone into as a consultant where the IT team has been there for 20, 25 years. And they're stuck in the mud and they don't know how to get out of that because they never grew. They never thought about leaving to go somewhere else to grow. So you have these teams, they're cliques, and they're stuck back in 1985.
So let's talk about that. It's a great segue into what I was going to say. So let's shift what we're all talking about now to family and to work-life balance, right? All of us have families, right? And yes, I want the men to talk about work-life balance. It's important. So we all have families. I know I had a really good opportunity once I started blogging. Just like Jeremiah said, things opened up. I could do things. But I had 2 teenagers, and I wasn't going to travel while I had 2 teenagers as a single mom because I did not like that idea because I know my kids very well. So I stayed in a job where I was underpaid and was not doing what I wanted to do, but I had insurance and I paid the bills, and that was really important to me from a family perspective. So let's talk about that. How, you guys are out here doing lots and lots of stuff. Are you able to maintain work-life balance, and how does this impact? You talked a little bit about it impacting your family financially, so how does this kind of stuff, how will it impact your family, and how do you wrangle all that and keep it in balance?
Remember, your other balance is still in the room.
Yes, I know.
You want to come up?
I don't think I do a good job of it. I try, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
So I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old.
That's really hard.
It's really hard without travel. It's really hard without some of the opportunities that have come up in the last couple of years. And when I got the opportunity to go work for Ahead, my wife and I had a very long conversation about it because we knew there was going to be a nice financial windfall that went with it, but there was going to be a different set of commitments as well in terms of time away from home, missing things. Thankfully, haven't really had that happen yet. So,
how many of you have kids who are going to their first week of school this week?
That's rough, y'all. It's really rough.
How many of you have never seen your kids on the first day of school because you've been going to VMworlds longer than they've been alive?
That's a good one.
Oh, it's so sad. I think there's a lot to be said for our networks and our support back home. Even when my kids grown, they're now the network for my fur baby. So it's important to have our networks and to really appreciate it. I love what we do with Spotsivities here at VMworld and some of the other shows, but I don't think any of us could do this.
So there's an important thing that I think people need to remember. Everyone's at different stages in their life, and I can't speak for everyone. But if you have a family or you have a very close knit of friends, family should come first.
Yeah.
Because family is with you for life. Even if you were to get a divorce, hopefully that doesn't happen, but it does happen.
God.
It's life, right? My wife was divorced. I'm her second husband.
Okay, positive
but we're
things,
together.
remember?
But no, but this is positive. The thing is, they are your support organization, and if you use that as your
No
focal
happy
point-
marriage ever ended in divorce.
Yes, exactly.
We're not talking
Dude,
about
high
that.
five.
It's positive.
No, don't even.
No, I will wrangle this back in because I actually think I have a more unique position up here than anybody else does.
Of course you do.
Well, yeah.
But go ahead.
I am the unicorn.
More
I quit my job a month after my youngest son was born. In fact, the reason why I went to work on June 1 was because he was born April 25th, and my boss said, you can't go to work for me during the month of May. You need to stay home. But during the conversation that I had with him, he said, now you know that this job involves flying, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, no, you don't understand how much flying you're going to do. You need to talk to your wife about this and make sure she is totally okay with this so that you do not end up unhappy 6 months from now. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, no, I will not hire you until you tell me exactly what she said. And I'm like, okay,
Family
sure.
first.
But I was prepared to go home and walk into, a shitstorm of saying, hey, honey, I want to quit this job where I get to stay in Oklahoma and fly all over the place and do stuff. And my response was, okay, that makes you happy. But she understood something about that it took me a while to understand. My old job, I was gone 8, 9, 10 hours a day. I would leave early in the morning and come home late at night. My kids would sometimes already be asleep, dinner would be cold, and I would complain about my job incessantly. Sorry, Rich. Now I'm gone. I flew out first thing this morning. I'm going to be gone till Thursday. you know what I didn't miss yesterday? My kid's first football game. You know what happens when I'm home next week? I'm home. I'm sitting in my office at my house. If I have to go get the kids from school, if I have to run one of them to softball practice, I'm not an absentee parent. And I know this because my dad was an absentee parent. He was a construction superintendent, and he was gone 8 or 9 months of the year. He had to go to a place in South Texas and build a thing, and that required him to be gone all the time. My mother was effectively a single mother. And so I had to help her and understand that. And so that was one of the things that I told my boss when I started working was, I am not going to be gone on weekends. I am not going to be gone 6 weeks in a row. And he said, I wouldn't make you do that.
So let me ask this question, because I think we've kind of beat this to death. We are supportive of our folks that support us while we do this. And they do support us when we work really long hours. And when you're a sysadmin, you're sometimes gone 2 days in a row sleeping under the conference table, too. It happens. Lost my train of thought where I was going with that. The support thing is really, really good. So how do we keep going? And how do you talk to, you said you told your boss, I'm not going to do this. How many of you guys would feel confident enough to tell your boss, I ain't doing that? Oh my gosh, y'all are some hard
Wow, y'all are
people.
better than me.
This is great, because it took me forever to get to that point.
Yeah.
But I think that's really important too. Have you guys ever had to go to one of your bosses, especially being so out there and an evangelist and so public, have you ever had to go to one of your bosses and said, I'm doing this, I don't care what you say?
Or not doing this, I don't care what you say.
Yeah, you guys have give an example of how you were able to do that in a constructive way that you kept your job.
So
I have a great relationship with my boss, so I pretty much said it just like that. I'm doing this. I don't really care. And
Lucky I'm in the
realistically,
same boat.
hopefully once you're in a position that you're comfortable in and you've been there at least a little while, and you should be able to do that.
I agree.
I mean, that shouldn't really be that
Trust
much of a
relationship
if
is
you have that
there,
relationship.
yeah.
In all reality, the other thing I think people miss, you work all these hours, and you're like, oh, I can't take time off for this because something is not going to work. The world keeps going. Like, take the time if you need it. And I was actually told that this was the one section of work-life balance that I wasn't supposed to say anything on, because mine's horrible. I work way more than I'm at home.
You could be the bad example.
I mean, I'm on a plane 85% of the time.
You can't get that time back.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that, but then when I think about it, the comment of when you're home, you're home. I've been on more dates with my wife since I started traveling more probably than I did for years before that. Because when I'm home, we plan things. Yep. Like, you actually plan to go out. I mean, some people have date night, they do whatever with their significant other. But the last time you were like, hey, let's go to dinner and a movie and actually like have a real date. Once you're married and you're going through a normal 9 to 5 or whatever, just don't happen. They don't happen. So being able to, while I'm not home, I get to do more anyway. I probably see her more and have better time with her now.
I think the tie here is that it's always deliberate. Right? Yep. This doesn't happen on accident. No one's going to do it for you. You can't get on a plane for 200,000 miles a year and expect that everything is going to work the way it works. Yeah. And honestly, if you move into a position where you know that's going to be the case and you have the ability to have those conversations, frankly, you're lucky, because most of us accidentally found ourselves in that position. Right? Most of us started as SEs and then moved into product management, and then would you go talk to these people, and then all of a sudden you're like, why have I stayed in Marriott's 220 nights this year, right? And so the need to be deliberate about these are the things I'll do or I won't do, or the need to understand that you can get in really bad habits with that travel, right? Travel becomes an easy way to run away from things. Travel becomes, an easy way to kind of plan around things. So I think for all of us, the key there is whatever that balance needs to be, whatever the toll is on the home life or the lifestyle, you can be as deliberate as you need to be in order to manage that. But literally no one is going to do that for you.
I love the point that as IT people, that's what we want to do. That's probably why we got into IT. We like to fix things, and we want to make sure that nothing breaks on our watch. It doesn't matter if you're there or not. It really doesn't. You could be there, you could not be there. Things will keep going. Everyone will find a way to make it happen. But your kids, that's what you got.
How many of you used all your vacation days last year?
What's a vacation?
Wow, that's good.
There's actually more people said yeah than I
Vacation
expected on it. I mean, you've got to take those time and
Yeah, you
get
have
the
to,
time away.
because here's one thing, you can't learn if you don't have downtime. If you don't have downtime, you can't think, you can't do your job. You definitely can't learn. You have to
One
have
tip
downtime.
on this is if you can plan certain long-term vacations well in advance, then there's never a question. If you say, oh, I want to take next week off, that's going to be challenging. I mean, that probably doesn't happen as often, but I try to plan out, like every summer I try to take 3 or 4 weeks with the family. We go to an area of the country where there's no cell coverage and all that stuff, although now they're getting cell there. But,
It's unfortunate.
but the idea, yeah, I know. But the idea is, if you put that advance notice in, there's no question. It's not changing, you made your plans, and that won't always work for some of the one-day offs, but the one-day offs are easier to negotiate than the long-term stuff.
Take
So
your
think
time.
advance.
Take your time.
Don't tell your boss if you're setting a demo for VMworld, you're taking the week before VMworld off, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Bad-
I mean, don't be
bad
stupid
planning.
about it.
Do you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, and so when it comes to balancing that, right? You have to have that good communication with your family, and we all have smartphones, right? They all there's some sort of calendar sharing program that works across platforms, or like the Apple Family Calendar, right? I'm not as good about using it as I should be, but it works.
It does work.
It works. Like I get a notice every time there's a doctor's appointment or something, so I know when something gets scheduled that I need to be there.
Good.
So
So-
when we finish this up, you've got lots of good examples. I will happily take the charge for the being terrible.
If you want to know what not to do, talk
And
to
right,
me.
I'll be your object lesson in what not to do if anybody wants to talk
I
about
think
that
it's great
later.
y'all are willing to share and be open with everybody, because it's kind of like this is a thing that's evolving, and it's different, it ebbs and flows. It's good to be able to talk to people that have been through it.
Don't be scared of the job that's going to take you all over the place, but just know that it's not easy.
Yeah.
There's a learning curve.
So let's switch back more into y'all's careers. Although it was a great conversation, I thought it was really good. Let's go here. So you guys started very non-technical, really basic technical jobs, and now you're the glorious places that you are today. So when you look back over the years, what was the main pivot point, or was there a particular piece of advice that you got that you'd like to share with everybody that shaped you and opened your mind up and helped you look another way?
Well, I'll jump in. There are things you're in control of, and there are things that you are not in control of. Right? There are things that you can impact and things that you can't. And we talk to a lot of people, and they say, I'm just not as smart as him, or I don't have the same skill set as him, and it's just such horseshit. Because the reality is that the thing everybody in this room can have 100% control over is your level of give a shit. In whatever you're doing, family life, work life, professional, the amount of energy that you bring to it, the amount of willingness that you have to say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this really well, showing up on time, being dressed appropriately, making eye contact with people, getting things done when you say that they're going to get done. I have no idea how I ended up here, but I'm pretty sure it's because I just never said, no, I can't do that. Anytime someone came up to me and said, is this something you can do? Is this something you want to do? Okay. And then go do it. And do it because you can and because you've got the resources. You just have to give a shit. And nobody can give you more or less of that. That's completely up
Did
to
that
you.
ever backfire on you, though, saying, oh, yeah, I'll go do that?
Nope.
Never? Not one time?
No. That's,
Well, the other thing is, it's not always about having success in everything you do, because sometimes you have to have failures to learn from it.
This is true.
And in the CTO's office, one of the things, and I'll let you guys confirm or disprove
Deny.
this, but we take a path in my group of we're going to try these different areas that look like good potential. But if it turns out it's a dead end and we need to stop doing that, that's fine.
Fail
because
as
now we
fast
know
as we can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that agile concept
Yep.
is really a true thing. It really works.
Okay, cool. So any more pivot points in careers?
Mine was figuring out that I am not the only person that does this. I grew up on a farm. I have milked a cow. And now I know how to write code. And it was weird for me taking for as long as I did. And you guys have all heard the tired cliche of, don't be the smartest person in the room. I was the smartest person in the room for a very long time, and I didn't get it
sucks.
until I met well, about half the people in this room through my new job. But even before that, when I started interacting with the community and understanding there are other people in the world, they do like technology. They don't just watch football and shoot guns and complain about things. And then I realized that I
We're
can
in Oklahoma.
go meet, yeah, Oklahoma. I can go meet people that share my interests. And the funny thing is that if you meet me at home, I'm very reserved and quiet. And when you see me at VMworld or Cisco Live, and
Come out of the shell.
Gina was probably the first one to mention, oh my God, there's not going to be enough time for Tom to stop talking. It's because when I get around people that I like and share my interests, I want to share. And that's how I started developing my career, by saying, I can learn from these folks. I mean, I used to leave events and get a hangover because I had to go back home where people don't talk about OSPF and stuff.
People don't talk about that anyway.
I was going to say one thing real quick. One of the things for me that was a big pivot point, and people probably know my background, but was helping create this certification and training around the VCDX program. So going through the process of learning about what that's about and realizing there's a lot more. After doing IT for like 20 years, I didn't realize all the things that I didn't know until I actually started working on something like that. And so other people have different pivot points. That was kind of a definitive one for me because it actually opened the door for things that, with projects and other things. And so you have to find out what is the thing that you can do that will help you with what you want to do next.
Yeah, interestingly, my pivot point was the opposite. Mine was on a failure.
Okay.
I'd been an IT director, gone through IT management for years, and I was at an international development firm. They brought me in. I was there for about 9-10 months, and they let me go. And I literally got fired. I called the guy. I had bought a new SAN from a vendor, and it was just about to finish the DR plan. So I called the guy and I say, hey, they let me go, so just so you know, you don't need to call my cell when things are happening anymore, because I don't work for them anymore. I leave the message. I'm driving home, and I vividly remember pulling over, him calling me back, and all I do is pick up the phone, and he goes, what the fuck? What do you mean they let you go? Come work for me. What? He goes, I need a pre-sales guy. I'm just like, I don't want to do sales. I don't want to do sales at all. Like, I'd been an IT director, I'd been
You did not
hands-on
have
guy.
Jeremiah's attitude.
I was like, I don't want. I went home and my wife looked at me and goes, you are so burnt out on IT management. You have been for a while. This keeps you in tech, but you get to do something different.
Yep.
And that shift, honestly, that making that move, because I waited a few months, I had a couple other job opportunities at the time, and deciding to take that one, which was not the highest paid one at the time, but taking that job was probably the best move I made on my career.
That's fantastic.
Because it allowed me to do things that I never thought I would do, and do some of the travel and be out front with people. When you're working internal for one company, you're in front of your people at the company, and that's it. You don't get that other exposure. So I think that was a huge step for me.
That's awesome. Sean, how about you? Because you're the last one to
I think my pivot point came when I realized I wasn't being challenged. And so I'd get into a job, I'd be there for 12, 18 months, and I'd get bored. And I worked for a lot of smaller companies, right? So there wasn't a lot of places to move, right? I was in an IT department of 2, 3, maybe 4 people the entire time. So it's not like I could move up to a new role or transfer from one team to another to keep, to re-stimulate or get re-stimulated. So I'd be there and like, I'm bored, I'm not happy. I like the people I work with, but I'm just not challenged. I need to learn something new. So I'd make a move. And it got to a point where after like the 4th time of doing this, like, I need this faster. I can't be doing the same thing all the time, going to these different companies where the problems are all the same, the systems are all the same. It's like, I need to make a shift to consulting. And I started talking to some people in my network, and then that opened the door to a really great opportunity. And
that's kind of satisfied that itch. Okay, cool.
I think it's a good question for everybody. And if your boss is in the room, feel free to not raise your hand. How many of you are bored or not challenged at your job right now?
Wow.
That's totally on you.
Yeah,
It's
find a
totally
different
on
job.
you.
You can take control and make a change. You can.
Okay, that's fun saying that. Like, I know one specific. Let's end it here because I got the high sign a minute ago. But let's end it here. And we're saying that, but sometimes you think back, like, how hard was it to try to figure out how to do that, right? Especially if you're in a job where you're there because you got. How many of y'all are in your job because you got to pay the bills? Everybody's for.
Well, everyone is.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay,
But not doing it out of the goodness of my heart.
Let's give everybody a concrete piece of advice. I'll go first, and you can see if you want something. So, of course, mine's going to be based on Microsoft, since that's where I'm deep in right now. Microsoft right now, if you need the link, I'll tweet it out later because I'm going to have to go and find it. They're offering free training, free developer tenants for Office 365, free certification vouchers if you go and learn Azure. So I know we're at the VMworld conference, all that. You can learn both and do both. It's not a big deal. Learn both. That's what, but what I'm trying to say is go, you can find someplace to go and learn this stuff that is free. People are dying to get you invested in developing on their cloud platforms. Go find one of these, set aside a couple hours a night after the kids go to bed or once you get all your other work done, and just learn. Go, something concrete.
Find your passion, right? Find what drives you and do it. It doesn't have to be something that pays the bills, but it has to be something that you love doing. Because you can tolerate a bad job if you have a hobby or a passion that you love to do. And when you find that and you invest in that, at some point you're going to find that that could become your primary job. That becomes your day job after a while. So find it and invest in it.
All right, fast, go.
Find something that you want to learn. One thing, that's it. It can be anything in the world. Find one thing and start learning about it. And as you learn, write down what you've learned. And then tell the world that you learned it. Because I promise you, you'll find somebody that learned it too. And that can start a whole conversation that will make you happy and give you roads you never even thought of.
Great advice.
There's an entire ecosystem of hardware vendors that every single one of you and your companies is paying an awful lot of money to, and they have more resources than you know. They have hands-on labs, they have gear, they have showrooms, they've got places that you can go to get the experience or the learning or the hands-on that you want. Recognize how much that circle works with you being able to look at them and say, these are the things that I want. And know that you've got a lot more power there than you probably think you do.
I'll do. Next.
Build your networks, be a mentor, because you learn from that, and foster diversity. There's only 7 women in this room. I encourage you to foster diversity across the range, because really there's a lot that can happen by doing that. A lot of positive.
Follow up on that for the last question. Go ahead, Mike.
Go get a toy. Get something that takes your mind off of what you're doing every day. That's when I get my free time on it. Like, I can jump on my motorcycle and go ride and not care. We had a plaque when I was growing up that the only difference between men and boys is the price of their toys. Dude, yes.
So let's
go get a toy.
All of this is really good advice. So I hope it's helpful. One last question, and we are going to end. It's going to be based on the diversity one. There is a panel full of men that I'm asking about career advice. It's just how this worked out this year. But we've got a whole year before next VMworld and next opening acts. Who would you like to see in your chair next year that would make this panel more diverse? You're not on the panel. Howard Marks. That's where.
There's the one.
I'll do this. I don't know who it is because the person that is most qualified to tell me about their career path and what they have thought through probably hasn't told the world yet.
Well, how do we get them to tell the world if you don't nominate somebody? That's what I'm saying. Who would you like to hear from?
I don't know. And that's on me. Honestly, my job is to go find people who have interesting stories and share them with the world. That's on me. Sorry, guys. I will go find that person.
Tweet it later.
At least we know whose fault it is.
I'll recommend somebody who is involved in activities like Women in Advanced Computing and so on, and encourage somebody like the woman who runs the Gmail program. Okay. I heard her talk about this at one conference before, and it was really groundbreaking to understand the difference depending on where you are, what sex you are, what religion you are, what background, it really is something that I think could be very positive.
All right, I feel like I put you on the spot, and I'm sorry. So y'all could tweet an answer later. I really thought you'd be able to think of one woman at least, but it's cool.
That woman, I
You're
don't
already
have
here,
I have a brain for it.
You kind of all say me. All right, but so I'll leave on a positive note of something you can think of. So let's go with what is the one technology you think you're going to be learning about in the next 6 months? Is this one hard too? Come on.
Machine learning.
Okay.
Machine learning,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Learning.
Yeah, I'm not doing
OSPF?
Oh, there you go.
Finally.
Tell me about that sand again, buddy.
No. Before it gets really ugly, we're done now. Thanks, you guys, for your attention. If you have any questions, come ask us.